ओम नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. So we begin today's class. We were discussing sutra number 28. 27 was just completed, and 28 sutra says tad japah tad artha bhavanam. The repetition of this Om, we described in great detail what is the significance of the word Om, O and Ma, and how it helps one to reach the Supreme. It is Tasya Vachakah Pranava, because it is the symbol of this Pranava or Om. Om is also known as Pranava, is the symbol of Brahman or the Purusha or Ishvara. Here we began the discussion by saying that we can attain the goal by meditating on the Ishvara, and the symbol of Ishvara is Om. So whenever we meditate on Om, we know that it represents the Ishvara of Sankhya. The Ishvara who is described as Sarvagyatva and who has no past, present, that is his who is infinite. So infinite existence, the Satchidananda Brahman, as we describe in Vedanta, he takes, when he manifests through his word Om, and that Om is the symbol of Ishvara. So we should repeat Om with this idea in mind. So the way is tad japah tad artha bhavanam. The repetition of this Om and meditating on its meaning is the way. Now, why should there be repetition? That is the question. Can we not repeat it once and understand the meaning once for all? That is how we study our secular subjects. We just memorize certain things, pass that exam, and whether we remember it after 2 years or not, we don't bother about it. We don't even bother to repeat it, what we have learned. Once we have read something or tried to understand something and managed to understand something, we tend to conveniently forget about it. But here it is not the case. Why should there be repetition? It says once knowing the meaning and repeating Om is not enough. Now Swamiji says, why should we repeat? So he is giving the answers. He says, we have discussed the theory of samskaras. That is, the sum total of impressions lives in our mind, that we have seen earlier also. In our chitta, in the mind stuff, our mind stuff constitutes the sum total of all our past impressions. So all the past habits give rise to samskara, and all the samskaras give rise to our personality. What we are is determined by our samskaras. So our samskaras determine our future. That is why the theory of samskaras say that the sum total of all impressions, they live in the mind, they still exist in the mind, and you can't give it up, you can't be free from them. As long as the samskaras are there, they will be manifest in some form or the other, in the form of thoughts, in the form of good thoughts, evil thoughts, and it will determine the course of our action. So here Patanjali says, why should there be repetition? To answer that question, the reason is that the sum total of impressions which are in the mind have to be countered, and that can be countered only by another samskara. Like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the evil that is in our mind should be countered with good thoughts. But even that has to be discarded later on, because the goal is to not to have any samskaras at all. So we say, just a minute. The sum total of samskaras or impressions, it still exists in the mind, and that is why repetition is necessary of Om. along with the meaning. If we just repeat also, it is okay, but much better is to repeat with the meaning in mind. They become more and more latent and they remain there. The samskaras which are there, they become latent. As days pass, we think our samskaras have gone away. Unless we make a conscious effort to bring them to the conscious plane and then try to uh, bring them to the conscious plane and then try to deal with it, they remain latent. Apparently, when they remain latent, they are not troubling us. And that is why we don't take it seriously. We don't take the samskara seriously because they are latent, they are not manifest. When they start manifesting, we realize, oh, what this havoc these samskaras are creating in our mind. Things that we could never imagine, even those things come out when we are trying to meditate. So that is why Swamiji says the more they become more and more latent as days pass, we think we have conquered all our anger and all those things because they did not get an opportunity to come up, to rise to the surface. They were pushed down and down and down, and they have gone to the bottom of our mind and remained, and but they are still very much potent, and they can give rise to anger and all the samskaras which we have suppressed. So no doubt, if even if we have suppressed these samskaras, they still live in the mind. And as soon as they get the right stimulus, see, it's just waiting, our samskaras are just waiting for some stimulus. So that's why Sri Krishna says, by removing the stimulus, you don't remove the samskaras, they're still latent. Stimulus only helps them to come up. That's why he says avoiding certain things will not solve the problem. You have to go to the root of your mind and remove the samskaras and not allow it to, and you don't take the risk of just checking whether these samskaras come up when there are temptations. When there are temptations, they are bound to come up. So if they are latent, they are in a potential form. If they are they are latent in our chitta. So Swamiji says, since we do not know what a storehouse of samskaras we have, the best way is to clean it. If we don't know what is there in an ink pot, if there is some layer of ink which is below, but we can't see it, maybe the glass is not transparent, it is opaque, the bottle. So we don't know how much of dirt is there inside. So we take water, pour the fresh water into the ink pot, shake it, and then see that dirty water comes out. Then again, before we go on pouring till we see the fresh water coming out. So the water, the old samskaras have to be cleaned that way, and the Om does the same function as cleansing our mind and getting rid of the latent samskaras, the latent habits, the latent impressions which are there in our mind, which we never bothered, thinking that they don't exist because the right stimulus was not there and we were not bothered about it. But when they get a chance, we see how they come up. So why take a chance? Why give it a chance to come up? So destroy it at the root itself. Then that can be done by japa. Any japa of any mantra or even Om will help you to control or destroy the samskaras at the root level, so that latent samskaras are destroyed. Now, Swamiji gives an example from physics. He says, molecular vibration in nature, you see, it never dies. Even when you destroy certain objects or certain things, they exist in some form or the other. The vibrations, if you destroy the solid, it melt it, it becomes a liquid. If it is a liquid, it becomes a gaseous substance, but still the molecules continue to exist in some form or the other, and the basic vibrations, the vibrations of the electron revolving around the nucleus, those never disappear. You may crush them, you may crush the molecules, you may crush the material, but still they will exist in some form. So Swamiji says everything is destroyed. Say all the massive, the sun, the moon, the stars and earth, everything, suppose they're destroyed in the Mahapralaya, as they say. But Swamiji says that vibrations or the impressions like these samskaras, they are never destroyed. They remain in seed form. So each atom performs the same function as the big worlds do. So if you remember, Swami Vivekananda had a vision in Kakadi Ghat. It's a beautiful banyan tree under which he sat and he was meditating. And then his Guru Bhai Swami Akhandananda was there. So he tells him, Gangadhar was his name. So Gangadhar, today I have made a wonderful discovery. He was meditating on the cosmic, the macrocosm, and then he suddenly found that what is there in the macrocosm on a massive scale exists in the microcosm, the smallest particle. It is like a miniature universe. Just as the planets revolve around the sun and the sun revolves around something else, so that constant motion is going on. So Swamiji says even in the physical world we see vibrations are going on. So each atom, and even if the whole material universe is melted, still the vibrations remain in the atoms. They can't be destroyed. So each atom performs the same function as the big worlds do. Big world, the whole macrocosm seems to be revolving around each other, and we think it's a great mystery. But if you go to the atom, the same universe, a miniature universe you can find inside. It is also performing the same functions. These electrons are moving in the orbit and they are at different energy levels. They do the same. There is destruction of material, the destruction of the things there, but the vibration never ceases. They transform their status or their nature, but they can't totally destroy either energy or the force, the energy or the matter. So Swamiji says each atom performs the same function as the big worlds do. So even when the vibrations of chitta subside, the vibrations of our mind, the impressions, though they subside, its molecular vibrations go on and they get the impulse and then come out again. So even the chitta is suppressed by meditation and all those things. And we think we are safe. Actually, we have not destroyed all the samskaras, for which you have to go on repeating Om and not take a chance. But he says the molecular vibrations are going on inside the mind. And when they get the impulse, the desire to act, the desire to be motivated by the desire to act, that comes out. So we understand now why the yogis ask you to repeat certain things. What does repetition mean? Once you know the meaning, why should you repeat? This is exactly the reason. It is not just to understand the meaning, but how this repetition can destroy the old samskaras. That is the question. So if the greatest stimulus that we can give to these spiritual samskaras, that's why there is a quotation, one moment of company with the holy makes a ship to cross the ocean of life. So it's a metaphor which is used in that we have to cross the ocean of life. We are on one shore, we have to cross it and go to the other shore, but we are not sure how we do it. We are afraid that if we try to swim or if we go by a weak boat, we may drown. So to cross the ocean of life is a metaphor used that to cross the ocean of life, we need some kind of support. And he says one moment of company with the holy, like Sri Ram Krishna, people used to feel that by his touch, by his look, or by his casual words also, there was so much of transformation. So he says such is the power of association that is why he says Om should be a kind of company. The mantra should be like your companion. So the power of association is so strong. So Swamiji says, so this repetition of Om and thinking of its meaning is keeping good company in our own mind. See, the problem of loneliness is that when we don't get company, we think we are lonely. But we don't understand that you can befriend your own mind. Now the problem is we just ignore our own mind and don't feed it whatever it needs. So for a change, if we sit down in solitude, there won't be loneliness because we will be conversing with the mind. The mind is there and it is like keeping company of yourself. So you keep the company of the mind. So here he says repetition of Om is like keeping good company, because the very sound of Om, the sound of the mantra is enough. It creates enough vibrations, positive vibrations, to nullify the effect of the latent impressions, samskaras. Swamiji says these latent impressions, apparently they don't trouble you when there is no stimulus, but the moment stimulus comes from outside, they bubble up. To prevent that from happening, we have to repeat the word Om. And it's a universal word which we discussed last time. Even Christianity and Sufi Islam and Sikhism and many religions, they begin their prayers with Om. So this repetition of Om and thinking of its meaning is keeping good company in your own mind. If we want to keep, we can keep our bad company also in our own mind. Because if we side with the reactive mind and keep always our minds, if they are volatile, and then you may think that mind is not your companion. Mind can be your own friend, the mind can be your own enemy. As Bhagavad Gita says, mind can be your friend, but mind can be your main enemy also. If the mind is restless, it may give rise to samskaras which manifest as evil samskaras. So instead of removing the evil samskaras, uh, they have the opposite effect. But Om, if we repeat and think of its meaning, it is like having satsanga without anybody present. We just have the company of the mantra, trying to practice the presence of God. When you repeat Om or any other mantra, it represents something. If it is just Om, it represents the cosmic self, as it is mentioned here, that you think that this Om is something which gives you holy company, and then study the the scriptures associated with this mantra, or at least do the mantra. And as you go on doing, as you go on repeating Om, a strange kind of understanding develops, because the more it destroys the old samskaras, it creates, it flushes out the old samskaras, impressions which are latent in our mind. Our mind becomes more and more peaceful. It reaches the level, or there is more light of buddhi or prakasha, the light of buddhi, and that illuminates our heart, and then we get a wonderful feeling of peace. It cannot be explained otherwise. It has to be felt, or has to be experienced, the kind of peace we get. So repetition of the Om, it will shut down the noise of the world, shut down the noise, both gross and subtle. Definitely when you are focusing on the word Om, you are shut down, you shut out all the noises of the world. But at the same time, there are other desires and other things. So even they are latent in as samskara, so it has to be destroyed. So for that we use Om. Superficially, we think our mind is under control, but we have to bring it under your control by imposing a regime of repetition of Om or the mantra, and create, and that self-discipline helps us to face the world and not to be affected by its consequences. So Swamiji says, study anything. Repetition of Om is actually like repeating the Vedas. Study and then meditate on what you have studied. Thus light will come unto you. The self will become manifest. So the method is very simple. Have faith, repeat, keep the company of Om in your own mind. Don't bother about satsanga or good company. If you don't have it, just nothing can prevent you from repeating. And the light will, Swamiji, the clarity and the wonderful truth connected with the word Om and our meditation, that will be relieved, that will be relived, in the sense it can be uh, practiced, and that will illuminate the whole mind. Then Swamiji says, but it's not enough to repeat Om, but one has to think of its meaning too. What is the meaning? Meaning is, as I said, U and Ma. There are many things. If you go to the Mundaka Upanishad, there's a wonderful Mandukya Upanishad, the deep sleep, dream, and waking state. And then the third state, Turiyas. Thakur used to say, is the waking state, U is the dream state, Ma is the deep sleep state, and after Ma, that silence which you observe, when you say Om, when it ends with Ma, then you have to stop for some time. You should not take up again. So that silence, when you focus again and again, when you try to understand the meaning, you will reach that state where it becomes absolutely calm. So Swamiji says one should not only think of Om and of its meaning, but avoid evil company, because that will undo what good things we have done. So one has to be very careful. If one cannot practice solitude, at least seek the company of good people who will positively benefit you. And don't call out the old scars of the old wounds. Swamiji says the scars of the old wounds are still there. The reactive mind has reacted so many times, and we are carrying that baggage with us in the form of suppressed impressions or samskaras. So these suppressed impressions uh, are called out, or it come out when you are in evil company, because the like vibrations induce each other. So if you are in evil company, the evil samskaras will come out, and they will become powerful by the type of company you keep. So that's why they say, tell me your friends and I can tell you your character. So you get the nature of the people whose company you keep. So one has to be very careful and selective. That's why Swamiji says, avoid all evil company, but that is not enough. The samskaras are still there. The scars of the old wounds, he says, they are still there. And evil company is just the thing that is, the moment the evil company come, it is like opening those wounds, the bleeding starts again. So we have to be careful as to whom we should meet and how to control our mind. In the same way, when we are told that good company will call out the good impressions that are in us, but which have become latent, there is this nothing holier in the world than to keep good company. So they say next to mumukshutva, the desire for liberation, is satsang. That's why Thakur used to say, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka, Maje Maje Nirjan Vas, sometimes go to solitude and then keep holy company, sing his glories. So his methods are very simple. So that's why Swamiji says that there is nothing holier in this world. If you want holy thoughts, then you have to have holy company, because the holy company induces these vibrations, and the good impressions will then tend to come to the surface. So whatever little good impressions are there, they will come. At least when you are in the process of sadhana, the churning process will take place. Sometimes because the vibrations are difficult, and so that's why they say, if there are so many evil people around, you can't focus or concentrate. What happens is, those old samskaras which motivated us to do evil, they come up only when that stimulus comes. So suppose you are in a place, a very far distant place, where you have come across some tiger. So the samskara, the fear of tiger, is very deeply ingrained in you. So here, if you just hear a similar sound to that of a tiger, then you suddenly start looking around you, thinking that the tigers have come. Now, tigers are not there, nor has the new samskara formed, but the old samskaras have come out. The very suggestion of the word tiger, that will bring those impressions and they will come to the surface, and that is why you can't control your mind. So that's why Swamiji says here, there is nothing holier in the world than to keep good company. That is why you'll find that when you are in holy company, however much you try, you may not succeed in keeping good thoughts always, but the proportion of good thoughts will always be higher. So that's why only through good company, only through the idea of repeating or listening to lectures or repeating Om, is the main thing is not to allow the evil samskaras to come up. It's then one may say, I'm doing this Om and repeating the sadhana. I've done it for quite a few years. Why should I continue? The answer is, till all the samskaras are flushed out, you have to go pouring water. So That is how, through repetition of you keep of Om or any other mantra given by the Guru, which has come down in a tradition. The moment you repeat, you cleanse your mind of all the latent impressions, and soon you will find that these things, they don't bubble up to the surface anymore. They may come, but they may come occasionally. So that is why the next sutra says, what happens if you continuously repeat Om? Whenever you get a chance, you repeat Om, you do Upasana. Upasana means to sit near, to sit in holy company. Whose company is holy? Sri Ram Krishna. There can be no holy company than him. In the most recent past, he lived, he ate, drank, died, and took Mahasamadhi in a span of 49 years, all in Dakshineshwar. So naturally, the power, the whole place is surcharged. So if whether you go to the room or whether you have his darshan in in the room, you will find that meditation and keeping holy company helps you. That is how all the samskaras of these people. That's why Sri Ram Krishna says, somebody, Latu Maharaj or somebody was meditating. Sri Ram Krishna was in that room, so, and he went and was meditating in the other room. Then one of them said, your Guru and your Ishta is here. Why don't you just keep his holy company, physical company? It is because we don't have the physical company of our Ishta, we repeat the name, and repetition of the name is how we keep holy company and keep practicing the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. So there is a good book by Brother Lawrence, Practice of the Presence of God. Now all he did, all his sadhana was to just remember now and then in the midst of his very busy activity. He was given all the hard work. He was not given the work which would be over and then you could go to the prayer hall and pray and do all the worship and other things. But he was not conversant with that. So most of the time he was doing cooking and other things, the menial tasks, the so-called menial tasks. But the abbot knew that he is a great spiritual giant and he was keeping this holy company, trying to feel the presence of his Lord Christ, his Ishta. So also when we take up and start worshipping certain Ishta, it is not the time, but the intensity with which we worship, keep the holy company. So the main idea is prevent the, allow only the good impressions to come out for the time being, then you can throw it, but at least don't allow or flush out the old samskaras. So that is why this 29 sutra says, Tataha pratyak chetana adhigama api antaraya abhavasya. From that means from the repetition of the Om, constantly repetition of Om or any other mantra, what happens is, from that is gained the knowledge of introspection. When you try to introspect, and then you'll find that suddenly something flashes, you get the knowledge. To gain the knowledge of introspection, after you introspect and just try to think aloud in your own mind, then slowly it is followed by destruction of obstacles also. So the destruction of obstacles are nothing but the old samskaras. They come and prop the samskara of laziness, the samskara of sleep, the samskara of reacting to almost everything spoken to us. So this highly reactive mind. So all these are old samskaras. So those obstacles, you can't remove the objects because the desire, that's why Gita also says that by removing, by not indulging in the objects, the sense objects, you're not practicing vairagya, because that idea of that object is still in the mind. Still in the mind means still in the unconscious plane. Now because we don't see it in front of us or hear about it, we are not bothered. But that doesn't mean the samskara to enjoy a particular food has gone away. It is there. The right stimulus comes, the right food comes, and suddenly you remember, oh, this is a wonderful item. So we need to, we go after it. So also, if we repeat Om, if we repeat our Ishta mantra, and just keep on persisting, keep on repeating that. But at that time, there will be many obstacles, which all the obstacles will be removed by Om. So Swamiji says, from that is gained the knowledge of introspection and the destruction of all obstacles. Now a new life begins by repeating, constantly repeating Om. It has flushed out to a great extent all the old samskaras. And uh, when the obstacles to yoga are removed by whatever means, if they're removed by chanting Om or thinking of the meaning, by your intensity of purpose, then you will see the introspective power will increase. You will try to see beyond physical and mental obstacles. They will come. Not that when you are living in the world, nothing is got for free. You have to work for it. So also the yogi has to overcome all the obstacles. Now, what are the obstacles? We understand that having gained the knowledge of introspection, have gained the knowledge of introspection, that is thinking clearly about our future, planning our future. So that introspection or planning, I mean, not only planning your future, but planning the goal of life, how to reach the goal, which we will reach by just practicing Om. What are the obstacles to that yogi? So that is explained now. There are different obstacles. They are wonderful analysis of how the mind, the latent impressions, the bad impressions, the weak impressions, the evil inspirations, samskaras, how they come and disturb us. So there is a list, very big list. We'll discuss it and we'll continue it in the next class also, because it requires a lot of discussion. First is disease. Any sort of physical disease is meant here, or even some mental disability, that is also included. One is uh, disease. Then you have mental laziness, sthana, vyadi, sthana, doubt, samshaya, pramada, alasya. Pramada is lack of enthusiasm. And sanshaya is doubt, of course. Lack of enthusiasm to do japa, to do om, or to do conduct or to do spiritual practices. That is known as lack of enthusiasm. Pramada, not that you can't do it, but you are too lazy to do it. That is the idea. So lack of enthusiasm should not be there. Disease, definitely one has to have a healthy body. So yoga for health, to have a healthy body is the goal of yoga, no doubt. But that is not the only goal. Just to prevent these some of the problems which are discussed in yoga, disease, mental laziness, dhyana, that is mental laziness. You don't, it's a very common disease, especially not disease, it's a common problem with our mind, that suddenly when we are doing everything with great interest, so suddenly a kind of mental laziness comes and then we don't want to think it. It was interesting a little earlier, but as you see, this pramada comes. That is disease, mental laziness, sthana. I'm discussing sthana. Sthana is the mental laziness, which is not specific. Anything, if you say that you have to remember all these things, your mind gets confused. You said, no, I'll do one thing at a time. My mind. So that is known as dhyana. So it is a kind of laziness. Not that the person cannot think, but he doesn't want to. So it is just a kind of mental laziness where the mind prefers to just wander rather than think in a coherent way. It is the most difficult thing. That is why people give up Jnana Yoga. It requires patience, continuous patience, lack of doubt. If you keep doubting the Guru, the mantra, and also the Om, then what hope is there? We have come to this world to get rid with a goal of life, and which according to Patanjali and also Swamiji is to reach nirvana or to reach samadhi, the final goal. But for that, you can't have a person with mental laziness, always trying to postpone, say, I'll do later, or perhaps not do at all. So this kind of lack of enthusiasm or sorry, mental lack of enthusiasm or mental laziness is dhyana. Then we come to sanchaya, which is doubt. That is the one of the obstacles, doubt. So sanchaya means the doubt whether what I am doing is correct, is it leading me towards the goal. The discriminative faculty, if it is not present, then we start doubting everything. So these are all the obstacles to yoga. First is disease, physical disease. So Swamiji says this body is the boat which will carry us to the other shore of ocean of life. It must be taken care of. So it's not that because you are attached to the body you do it, but you know that till you reach a goal, you need a vessel. It is the boat, it will carry us to the other shore. So the mantra, the body is like a boat and it will carry, if the body is strong, but there are other things also necessary to reach the destination, knowledge of the way, the rowing and other things. So this body is that boat. So it is again a metaphor. Body is compared like a boat going, sailing towards the other shore, towards the goal, just as boats do, doing it in the ocean of life. So that is a metaphor. But it must be taken care of, the body. Unhealthy persons cannot be yogis. Mental laziness makes us lose all lively interest in the subject. So it is for this reason that mental laziness is mentioned. That it's not intentional laziness, it is a kind of uh, lack of lively interest in any subject. You give any subject, there will be, they won't say no, but they will just show that I'm not interested, I'm interested in something else. So mental laziness is one thing which comes because of fatigue, because of tiredness, and that will be very fatal if we lose interest in these things also, in the positive things of life, in any subject. It's not that it should be a spiritual subject alone. Even in secular sciences, this mental laziness can be found. The moment you have to do some complex thinking, you just avoid it, and then we'll say, let us just relax, listen to some music, and just get away from this situation. So those things one has to be very cautious. It is known as mental laziness. Then doubt, samshaya. Then pramada, that is lack of enthusiasm. Just now we discussed that. Then lethargy. They're all similar, but the connotations and the meanings are different. Then we come lethargy. Lethargy is some kind of, it's not, see, mental laziness is of the mind. It can be induced by less eating, but lethargy is some kind of mechanism which makes us take some rest. Lethargy, not mechanism, it is a kind of inducement to take rest, when that is because the body has become tired. So mental laziness and physical laziness can be called as lethargy. Then clinging to sense enjoyments, naturally the old samskaras. That is exactly the reason why we have to keep holy company of the holy mantra and see that the repetition of the mantra is always induces the practice of the presence of God in our hearts. If that is the case, the evil samskaras do not get a chance to pop up. They are just destroyed by the power of the mantra, the Om, the Bija, and the mantra. So it can be a long mantra, or it can be only a pranava, only the pranava, or this Omkara. But still, with this repetition, Swamiji or Patanjali gives us the some of the obstacles which about which we should know and also be careful that these things can happen. Disease can happen. We have to be. That's why Thakur used to say that you can pray to Mother to have a healthy life if you want to do sadhana. So this is the boat which carries us to the other shore. And if the boat has a leak, it will be a problem. So it must be taken care of. Unhealthy persons, Swamiji says, cannot be yogis. Mental laziness makes us all lose all the lively interest in the subject, without which we cannot obviously make progress. But there will be neither the will, or if the will is there, there will be no energy to practice. Doubts will arise in the mind about the truth of the science. So here the doubts doesn't mean any doubts. One can doubt many things. If the one doesn't know which is better, the spirit or the matter, then you will doubt. Shall I say matter? If I say matter, then uh, the spirit goes away from us. And if we say spirit, the matter goes away from us. So we have to, even if doubts persist, we have to go on doing it. That is the idea. However strong one's intellectual, there may be people or there may be personalities who try to think out and try to think there are much better methods of science. But these doubts will come, and we will try our hand in different things. We are like that famous person who was digging wells. Thakur told him, seeing him, many people had advised him to dig in different 4 or 5 places. So Sri Ramakrishna says the person who approached him said, "What are you doing? Instead of digging 10 meters in the periphery, if you had uh, dug only in one place, you would have reached the goal." So if we have doubts, if we don't have a conviction in our mind about the truth of the science means, in case it is a physics or a chemistry, then it is a physical sciences, but this is a spiritual science. So whatever doubts come, whether the spirit is true, if the spirit is true, why it is not solving my material problem? This is a very oft repeated question. People want spiritual, there can be a spiritual solution to our practical problems, but spirituality will act in a different way. It will help you to transcend the problem, not solve the problem. That's why people immediately lose faith. Doubts come because they say that we had so much of, because we had a wrong hope, what the mantra can do for you, what Om can do for you. Their purpose is to awaken the spiritual consciousness, and it's not an, so that doubt comes because we don't see immediate physical progress, and the mind thinks, oh, am I doing the right thing? It will bring about thoughts, so many doubtful thoughts about the truth of that science of meditation. However strong one's intellectual conviction may be, until certain peculiar psychic experiences come, as hearing or seeing at a distance, etc., these glimpses will strengthen the mind and make the student persevere. So that is another one. So doubts should be it disease, mental laziness, doubt, and lack of enthusiasm, and lethargy, physical laziness. So mental laziness and all these things you have to avoid if one has to reach the goal. Then clinging to sense enjoyments. Now, clinging to sense enjoyments, that is known as pramada alasya avirati. Avirati means clinging to sense enjoyments. Then false perception, non-attaining, bhranti. False perception means bhranti. Bhranti means you see certain things, you see a piece of shell and the silvery shining color of that shell, you think it is silver and run after it. So that is bhranti. The perception itself is wrong. Our perspective about the world, about people, about everybody around us, if that is fundamentally wrong, the whatever be your perception, it will be affected. So that is also an obstacle. Disease, mental laziness, doubt, lack of enthusiasm, lethargy, clinging to sense enjoyments, false perception, non-attaining concentration. These are all higher in the hierarchy. If we can't do, if you have disease, if you have mental laziness, if you have doubt, if you have lack of enthusiasm, if you have lethargy, and still your mind is clinging to sense enjoyments, then the task is very difficult. So these obstacles have to be removed when we do sadhana. Just tasya vachaka pranava tad japat means by doing the japa of Om, you can reach the goal, or any other mantra for that matter. Doubts, if they come, it's okay. But for some people, some psychic impressions may be, experiences may be very good, especially when there's nobody to guide you and doubts come. Then Swamiji says, suppose you have a vision, some strong vision. That is how most of the direct disciples made progress. When they came to Sri Ramakrishna, they were also students of Brahmo Samaj and of modern education. They said, how is it possible? But when they saw Sri Ramakrishna going into Samadhi, the heartbeat stopping and all those things, then these experiences, that, oh, these experiences can come to me also. And if you get even a small experience, that increases faith and the doubt goes away. So to increase the faith or to remove all the doubts, you can resort to certain things which give back your faith, which recreate a faith. That is what Swamiji says, I have not come to destroy, I have come to fulfill. As Jesus said, he also said once that I just have come to strengthen what was originally there. I have not come to destroy anything or take away anything. So when doubts come, you have to counteract it. Now those all the methods of how to deal with these obstacles will be discussed in Sutra number 31. We have a few minutes, so we'll just say. And then there is another problem. One problem is that every person does not have any spiritual experience which can give him a lot of faith, like seeing at a distance, hearing at a distance. Many things intuitively you can perhaps get, but that is not a good method. If we depend too much on the psychic experiences, and the people, those who don't have this, they might feel inferior. They might feel that why are the same thing happened with the Narendranath when he saw Bhavnath and other younger children dancing and shouting in ecstasy. He thought, why don't I get those experiences? But then Sri Ramakrishna says that you are far, far on a higher plane than these people. So small emotions will not disturb. Your heart is so large and it's like a calm ocean. No matter how many elephants go, the water is not likely to be disturbed because the size of the elephant is very small. But if that same elephant goes to a pond, all the water will be splashed out and a big, it will be very much visible. That is why Swamiji says one has to strengthen our mind and try to find out whether the psychic experiences are making my faith stronger. If it is removing your doubt, then it is good. If psychic experiences or some supernatural experiences happen in the process of doing sadhana, they reinstate your faith. The faith which you had lost after doing so many years, you suddenly lose faith. So that should not happen. Then finally, these things happen, help a student to preserve his mind in a normal frame. Then falling away when obtained. This is another obstacle which often happens. When you have reached a sort of peace, when you have reached a state where you are enjoying your peace, suddenly it is taken away from you. It suddenly lose it. Maybe some sound or something, and then you get irritated. Said I was in such a good mood that the whole process I have to go back and start it again. So this falling away is also, when obtained, is one of the characteristics. Then we come to doubts are over. So some days or weeks when you are practicing Om, it may be some weeks, some days when the mind becomes calm and easily concentrated. In the beginning, it will be turbulent, but when we continue, then you will find the best sign to understand if whether we have made progress is how calm your mind and how easily concentrated it becomes. What you do, what are the other things you do, that is not very important. If you're following this path of concentration, then you have to persist with faith. All these obstacles will come, but you have to just trod over it, just tread over it and then go forward. Then he says, all of a sudden progress will stop one day. Some days or weeks when you are practicing, the mind will become calm and concentrated. That is what these things can do this mysterious things. But you will find yourself progressing fast only by having faith and not falling away when you obtain. You obtain some peace and then just carefully preserve it. Don't allow it to be just snatched away from you. That is why they say the company of the holy or going to solitude, at least the bad samskaras do not chase you. So one has to persevere. All progress, Swamiji says, do not, the commentary says, proceeds by such a rise and fall. This mood swings which we get in life, that is the rise and fall which we observe. And then this rise and fall, constant rise and fall, they will give rise to disease, mental laziness, doubt, lack of enthusiasm, lethargy, clinging to sense enjoyments, false perception, then non-attaining concentration and falling away from the state when obtained are the obstructing distractions. So we, with great difficulty, even if it is a small experience, if we fall down, then it takes more time to again go and reach that state and then perhaps go ahead. So these are the different distractions, and in the next there are some other problems or other obstacles. Dukkha, daurmanasya. So grief, mental distress, tremor of the body, irregular breathing, accompany non-retention of concentration. So when we are going towards the goal, when we are practicing these disciplines, it is very, very common to get all these listed obstacles. And our best wisdom lies in trying to find out solution. And before we study the other problems or other obstacles in verse number 31, let us just close today, and I will see if there are some questions, then we can take those questions. The first question is just saying Om is enough to attain Supreme? Why do different traditions use different mantras? I mean, why does everyone not use Om mantra only? You see, it is not enough. Nobody says Om is enough. But Om, it is better than everything else. But all the mantras have Om in the beginning. There are other traditions. You remember the Upanishads and the Gita and even the Yoga Sutras, they may accept Om as the only mantra. But there are other powerful mantras discovered by rishis in different ages. So these mantras, these additions, the bija, especially the idea of bija, because it is so powerful that no doubt Om is powerful. It begins with Om, but the bija is the one which is like a key to open, unlock the potential and see that you get the full benefit of the repetition of the name. So after Om, we repeat the bija and the name of the Ishta, because we normally practice meditation with a aspect of Ishvara which we love most. So we meditate on that. So we need his name. We have to call upon his name lovingly. So if there is Krishna, we'll say Krishnaya Namaha. If there is Rama, Ramaya Namaha, Devyaya Namaha. So all this Nama means I worship you. That's the idea. And that happens, and that encourages the person who is repeating to generate more energy. Om is enough, but Om may not be palatable to everybody. So if there is a slightly long mantra like Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, there also Om is there, the whole Gayatri mantra. But if you see the Gayatri mantra, though Om, Gayatri merges into Om, that is true. But still, we need the support of bijas and other things in the initial stages. Otherwise, you can simply do Om. That is fine. It will lead to the same realization. By doing Om, the molecular vibration, that is chaos not in harmony, can be transferred to molecular symphony, good. Is that way samskara can be obstructed to come to the surface? No, it's not just obstruction. Obstruction is a temporary solution, That is, you can do through so many means. Just when the thoughts come, just put a break. But here it not only removes the thoughts, does not see the samskaras have a latent tendency. If you just don't give it the necessary stimulus, it will not come out. It will be lying dormant. That is the fear, that in yoga what we do is we just be merciless on ourselves. So if you have the slightest ego, if you have the slightest discomfort or some mental agitation, and it is affecting your concentration, which is the goal, then you have to repeat other things also. That's why we tell people to repeat other stotras which they like. So just Om is enough, but with Om, if you have the bija and the mantra, it becomes more strong, and it helps you to practice the presence of your Ishta by repeating the mantra. And finally, Swamiji, how many times should we repeat Om to calm our minds? Now that depends. First of all, if you do it with full attention, full energy, I think there is no limit. I mean, it depends on, we can't say that you have to do only so much if want peace. No, not like that. You have to go on practicing. We do not know how many latent samskaras are there. So all of them have to be cleansed. And in the process, a lot of obstacles will come, a lot of problems will come. They have to be practiced. They have to be removed by practicing or sitting near. Upasana means sitting near, feeling the presence. So when we worship God, we have to make sure that we believe that the personal God is so near to us, so kind to us. There are so many adjectives which you can ascribe to this Ishvara. So when we do that, the all-powerful Satchidananda, we don't meditate on God as just a ruler who just takes a sticks and gives karma. We don't want that God. We want our God to help us and protect us. So there is no limit. Any number of times you can practice Om. Of course, when the mind gets trained, then perhaps you may not feel like, and you should not practice Om. So shall I take your leave now? There are no more questions. So I take your leave for today. I have given on WhatsApp a program which will be held at tomorrow. There will be two classes. One is our regular Gospel of the Holy Mother. If it is not Gita, I think it is Gospel of the Holy Mother. So as usual, 5:45 that class is there, but in the just in the afternoon at 2:30, we have 14:30. I have given it in the WhatsApp, a discussion on narrative metaphors which we use normally to take our ideology forward, spread our ideology, and create more and request more and more people to join that movement. So it is based on that, the narratives and other things. It will be conducted by one group in Germany. So those who can enter Zoom, there is a limit to our Zoom entries, the number of people they can watch on Facebook Live. So I have given that. So that will be in the at 2:30, and then once that class is over, that class will end at around 4 o'clock. Then we have our regular 5:45 class, the Gospel of the Holy Mother. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Swami.
Namaste.
Thank you, Swamiji. Namaste.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Namaste, Maharaj.